Hi, I'm Pam Hayes from Hayes Sewing Machine Company. Welcome back to our creative videos. And today we're going to do an apron panel. On this apron panel, it has the apron and the ties, but it also has two oven mitts.
Cute.
This particular one has Thinsulate in, or Insulbright, I should say, sorry. Insulbright, big difference. In the actual mitt itself, when you're working with it, they suggest on the panel just doing the Insulbright. You might want to also consider putting a layer of batting, cotton batting in there. But again, they just said Insulbright, and you have Insulbright top and bottom for it.
So in case you pick up the mitt and put it on the wrong
All
hand.
the way, you got it. They also suggested that you quilted it, so I did like a 1-inch square little foot to it. So this is what you're going to have. You're going to have the blue. The blue is something that you would be purchasing extra. You need about a half a yard for doing the inside. And then you also are going to have the half a yard of the Insulbright. So that will go inside. Now, I'm going to do my apron so it's not lined. But if you wanted to line it, you're basically going to need like a yard to line for the other side.
For the apron and the mitt as well, or a yard and a half for the...
What do you think? So if you take a look, probably about a yard and a half for both, just to be on the safe side.
Yep.
Okay? What I'm going to do on the edge is I'm simply going to serge it.
Okay.
Okay?
Use those sergers.
I know, use those sergers. All right, so once you have quilted, okay, you're going to put right sides together. Okay? But what I did first is I did a zigzag on the edge, so that way when you wash your oven mitts, it's not going to do anything funky. So basically, I went about 3.5 in width and about 2.5 in length. What I also did is they have a mark for your sewing line, and I kind of pre-cut it down. That way when I'm zigging, it's not going to, when I cut it, it won't unravel.
You won't be cutting the zigzag.
I won't be cutting the zigzag because that would be awful. All right. Yes, and I think I unthreaded my machine in my exuberance. So let's get that.
It's a family trait.
It's a family. We can't not talk with our hands.
If you want us to be quiet, just tie our hands. We can't talk.
All right. So again, I'm going to sew down and around and then back up. I'm not going to bother with the top because the top's going to have binding.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to go and we're going to sew down. And you can see that again, we're just going to do a real quick stitch around. Now, you're probably saying, well, why don't you do this on the serger if you have that on the serger?
Right here. That's
right here. When you get to this section, being able to get in and out and pivot that, yeah, not so good on a serger. Sergers are awesome, but for doing that type of pivoting and working, wouldn't be my first choice. All right, so again, we're coming down and around. All right, so now at this point, we're going to go, and before we put it together, because this is kind of, we get all excited, we really want to take the time and put the little tabby.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
right.
That makes sense because we want to be able to hang our mitts.
Absolutely. So at this point, we're going to treat it like you'd be doing a bias binding you know, so we take it, we flip it in. A little hot. Surprise,
So press
surprise.
it in half and raw edges into the crease.
Yep.
Got
And
it.
then fold it again. All right, so again, how we did that is,
Give you 2 seconds, Pam. There you go.
all right, so we fold it in half, made a crease, opened it up, pressed it in, and then did the final flip in.
Mm-hmm.
So now at this point, we're going to go to our straight stitch, and we're just going to sew the straight stitches on either side, just to kind of make it look neat and keep it closed. And it's because I also did exactly that way on
Because they have
the
to
other
match.
All right, so now we are going to go and we are going to put, just going to trim up a little bit. All right, and we're going to put our tie, they'll give you a mark. So we're just going to line that up. And I'm going to put one of my clips. I would recommend clips on this. I don't think doing your traditional pins will necessarily make it as easy as it could be. All right. Now, they give you a line that for stitching, and if you can see it, see right there?
Mm-hmm.
They say it's 1/4 inch. Really? I think it's more like 3/8.
Okay.
So I am sewing around the outside edge in 3/8.
Just so you can't see that line.
Yep.
It's very sweet of them to put the line there, but it's
It
not
is.
really helpful, is
It's
it?
not. No, not really. All right. So we're going to sew all the way around. Remember, leave the tie in. And if you want to make it a little easier when you go around the curves, shorten your length of stitch. It makes it a little bit rounder, a little bit smoother. Now you'll notice where I slit it. So you're going to basically just go down and you're going to go beyond that. So we don't want air holes. And then we're going to flip it back up. For doing the quilting, I actually did the quilting on my long arm
Oh, nice.
with the straight line ruler.
Okay.
And it was just kind of more fun to me than doing it the other way. And it also makes it so I didn't have to stop and start so much. And I'm just going back and reinforcing that little divot in. If you think you've gotten a little too close, now is the perfect time to fix it. All right, so we have our mitt, and we are now going to turn it. And I found this was the hardest part.
That was the hardest part of this project, huh?
This is the hardest part of this project. So when you're working with it, all right, so we had, and you're going to hear it.
Mhm.
Can you hear it? Hopefully they
That's
can
the
hear it.
Insulbright.
That's the Insulbright. All of a sudden you're like, why is it rustling? It's the Insulbright.
If sewists haven't used Insulbright before, it's a very thin batting, but it has silver in it, which deflects the heat.
Yes.
So whenever you're doing a mitt or a potholder, that kind of thing, those little the little grippy things that they do for grabbing a pot, if you put the Insulbright in there, then whoever you're giving it to as a gift knows
Likes you
that.
better.
Yes, I was going to say they know that you love them.
Ah! They also recommend, if you actually look at the instructions on Insulbright, they actually recommend a layer of Insulbright and a layer of like warm and natural.
Warm and
batting.
natural batting.
Yeah. Not
Well, it just means-
not polyester. Don't
Yeah.
do polyester batting.
No, because it will melt and it will transfer heat.
Yep.
I like to have a little bit of, I don't know, fabric and batting in between me and my blazing hot pot.
Yes.
Makes me much more secure about picking it up.
All right. So we got the thumb pushed out as well. So we have our mitt. All right. Ta-da!
So cute.
Hello. Okay. Sock puppet. Sock puppet.
Yes, exactly. Put some googly eyes on it.
All right. So now doing the binding on the top. They suggested that you cut about 2.5. So you're going to do that. And I'm just pressing it in half. And then you want to kind of make the pocket. So remember, you're going to fold it down.
Other way.
Thank you. My left and my rights aren't good this run. All right, so we're going to line it up. Give it a press. But before we start to sew, where we have folded it down, we want to trim from that fold, we want to trim 1/4 inch. So to get rid of some of the bulk. Okay.
Can you hold that up just because I don't think they could see it on the ironing board? So,
So see how it was 2.5.
mm-hmm,
I folded it,
mm-hmm.
and then I flipped it down. So remember, I had a bigger piece. Flipped
And
it
how,
down.
how I remember that fold is when you're looking at the inside of the binding, when you do that angle, the lower part should be on the left. 2 L's. Lower
L's.
left. Yep.
Lower left. There you go. All right. So now at this point, I sew it on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we're going to do our 1/4 inch. And I try to press my seam open. You know, just finger press it open. And we want to also make sure that everything's laying flat. I don't pin this portion of it. It's too small to worry about. So again, you're going to, when you come to the other side seam, just try to press it open. It just reduces the bulk a little.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're coming around. they said in the pattern 1 strip across the 45, you know, at 2.5 will be enough to do this, to bind both. All right, I think that should do it. Yep, that looks good. All right, so now we're gonna go and we're gonna trim it. You want to be able to have it be able to go inside this V section. So we take and we trim that, and then it should go right in. And I always cut it long the first time, so then I will trim it up again. I'd rather trim it twice than have to figure out how to staple a piece of fabric in there. All right, so now.
All right, before you do that, can you show them the pocket?
Yep.
And you're actually positioned perfectly for it.
There you go. So see how we're
Come
just...
towards me a little bit. You got it.
All
So
right.
you're just tucking it into there.
Tucking it in.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
All right, so now we're flipping it over. And we're doing our top stitch on the outside. I did the top stitch of a zigzag.
Oh, cute.
So I just did a zigzag around the edge.
Always like that look.
I figured it would be perfectly fine to do that. All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now I take this out and I'm going to use the open arm.
Mm-hmm.
Just makes life a little simpler. And when I did my zigzag, it was about 3 and 3. So 3 in width, 3 in length. But whatever works for you. Just did a wide zigzag. And I also use my stylist to help keep everything nice and straight. So this stylist is a by Annie's stylist. It has a little sharp pokey, and it works really well. And it holds it nice for you. Especially when you feel like you need a little bit more control of where the fabric's going, but you also like your fingers. So you don't.
Boy, they are.
Yeah.
That's the advantage of doing the zigzag on this particular section of binding, because whenever I do a straight stitch, you see every little hiccup and pivot and turn. It's a strange place to sew on it.
Yeah, it's tight. It's not. Whereas if you do a zigzag, it's a little bit more forgiving. All right, do a little back stitch. All right, and ta-da! Just have a little haircut, but it's all
Lovely.
done. All right.
Very nice.
So 2 mitts are done. All right, so now we're going to do a lot of the other work on the serger. So we're going to just move over. Now, I was working, and you have 4 ties on this particular one. You have 2 for the neck, and 1 for each side. So I was doing the ones that are just going to be the ties. If you take a look, I just did a narrow 3 thread, short, so about 1 in length, with just regular thread.
Okay.
But I didn't want somebody to say, but it's kind of abrasive. So if you're doing it around the neck, I would do it traditional. So in other words, 3 thread, but at a normal length of stitch. And we're going to sew across the one
just
short
in
edge.
case somebody hasn't done a lot of serging, normal stitch of length is what?
2.5.
2.5.
All right, so that's what we've done here. Okay, we've done that end. And then we're just going to sew all the way down. And this is how they have you do it on the pattern. So just put right sides together. And then to turn it over on my ironing board, I have a fast turn. Okay, how a fast turn works, it has 2 parts to it. It has a tube, and then it has a wire that has a little pigtail at the end. So what's going to happen is we take, no we don't, we take the tube and feed it up over. And the only other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim to about a 1/2 inch those little guys. Okay? All right, so I have my tube. I take my wire and I feed it up, and watch what I'm doing at the end. See how I'm kind of folding the fabric over? And see how I'm just twisting it so the little pigtail has come through the fabric. And then,
Sorry, we're having a little bit of issues with focusing. All right.
see if I can.
If you can bring
There
it,
you go.
If you can bring it down just a little bit. Okay. Yep.
All right, so fold it over the edge, twist it through, and then pull.
It's impressive every single time.
Every single time. And when I'm working with it, I got overzealous on my pull. What happens, there you go, it pulls it out the other side.
They can't see it.
Okay. See how it's being pulled out the other side. And ta-da. And it's funny, I say ta-da every time. Because there's magic. And then I use the put it back on the tube, and I'll use that to help push the corners out as well. And then if you still find that the corners are a little wonky for what you like, use stylus, just gently pull it out. All right, then we're going to go over to the ironing board and we're going to give it a press.
I'll press it.
Oh, I have my little pressing elf today. So we're going to go and give it a press. You're going to have the seam on one side. So when it's all done...
See, she's giving me directions.
Oh, wasn't actually intending to. You'll see how, again, it's pressed.
I'm like, oh, I guessed that right. Oh, very nice.
All right, thank you. Now, we're going to go and we're going to serge all the way around this piece. So single layer. The length of stitch I'm going to go is about 1. Again, it's a narrow 3 thread, which if you've used a serger before, you know that most sergers can do 2 needles. So I'm only having the right needle in at the moment. And you're just going to trim the barest minimum. It's not a rolled hem on this one, it's just a flat seam. Now, I'm going to sew off and then sew back on again at the appropriate angle. And then to finish off this piece here where you see the tail of thread, I'm going to put a dab of fray check.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to put a dab of fray check on there. What I'm trimming off is they had, put strap here. So they give you a little where to put your ties, where to put your straps. All right, sewing all the way around. And then I'm coming down the other side. And you can see how nice and fast this is. In the actual pattern instructions, they have you flip it and press and flip it and press.
Mm-hmm.
So
this is way faster.
Yep.
And in some ways prettier because it gets a kind of decorative edge to it.
Yep, gives you a nice decorative edge. And just a little bit down the bottom, and we're done. We'll just sew the ties on. So, we're done those. We're going to now go back over to the sewing machine. And we're going to sew our ties on. Alright, so the two ones that I made them pretty, they're going to be for the neck. So at this point, they're going to attach right up at the top. Okay, so we can actually tuck that thread in the back, and we can, when we're sewing our ties on.
Ooh, look at you doing 2 for work.
I know, right? 2 for 1.
Anchor your thread and sew your tie on at the same time.
Go figure, right? All right, so we're going to line this up. I'm going to do a straight stitch. And I have the tie coming down. There you go. And it's caught, and I'm just going to trim it. And then I'm going to flip it up and top stitch it. And again, trim up my threads. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So again, I just pull that piece of thread down. You don't need to yank on it a huge amount, just pull it down. And then we're going to stitch, with, again, with the tie going down. Trim that long serger tail, and then we're going to go and flip it up. When I flip it up, I try to have the serger just nice and flat. You don't want it tucked too far down. All right, now the ties. See, remember, they wanted us to fold the ties in. Okay, so they wanted us to fold them in half and do it just like so. So they are kind of bigger than traditional ties they would be. So the only thing I was going to do is just kind of make a little pleat, or you can leave it flat. Doesn't really matter. But see how I'm making a little pleat in it? All right, so again, same thing. I can fold that piece of thread down, and I'm just going to sew it, making a little pleat so my tie is a little less wide at the apron edge. Do I think in the long run it would have mattered if I left it flat? Nah.
But you like it cute.
I like it cute. Give a little pleat. Alright, so again, I have it all set. I'm going to trim my thread, serger thread on the back, and then again, I can flatten it out and sew it on the top, just so my tie is always facing the right direction, because it would be awful if it wasn't, right? Alright, and give it a trim. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Again, make a little pleat. Have it flip down so we're catching our thread. And then we will have a done apron. It's a nice quick gift actually for somebody. Trim up my serger thread and my other threads. Flatten it out. All right. we are done. Need some little hair trim. Look at that. We are done.
Oh, that's cute, Pam.
We're done the apron. All right. Now, the only thing that, and I've had several of our people in the store, ask, I've asked them, because I was like, I read the instructions. You have 4 lovely little sunflowers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you want to do with them.
But are they little pockets or?
If they are, they're really small pockets, but they don't actually say anything. My thought is if you trimmed it down.
They'd make cute coasters, wouldn't they?
Yes, make cute coasters. I don't know if you want to, treat it as an applique and put some. Have fun. Figure out what you want to do. Let us know what you did with them. Because
write it in the comments below.
I couldn't figure it out. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.